is about to happen, and yet everybody is nobody cares. Nobody's ready for a collapse, and they're distracted by a football game.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing.
Hey, we only got about 2.5 minutes before the next break. Can you just tell everybody where they can find you, and if they want to support you, if there's a way to do that? Can you let everybody know?
Yeah, you could find me on YouTube. It's just the channel is Stinky Cash, and there's no way to support me. I don't take any kind of like donations. I don't have a Patreon of any kind. People did support me in my time of need a few years ago when I actually needed money because I broke my hand. I needed medical attention, and I didn't have health insurance. So I reached out to my subscriber base, and they took care of me in my time of need. And I've never asked them for any money before or after that. But I want to give a shout out to everybody who donated to that GoFundMe to help me get my hand better. And it's been 2 years, and my hand's fine now. So thank you to everybody who donated to that.
Awesome. Dave, just a few minutes left. Any final questions for Stinky Cash? Or?
I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're softened up towards other people trying to help and realize that we all together make a more delicious soup than alone. And when you're making your new videos, remember what your mother told you. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Well, I thought it was funny though, Dave, what he said about you. So I guess
no, I actually didn't take offense to it. A lot of people sent it to me, including Nathan Oakley, saying, "Hey, did you see this?" So I had seen it, and by the way, Nathan Oakley show is a must listen to. He's literally like AP physics of flat Earth.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit on the second. Go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
Dave, was the soup you were talking about, was that matzo ball soup?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only kind.
All right, and any final words for you, Cash, before the break?
No, that's it, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right, looking forward to hearing some new videos from you, seeing some new videos.
Me too. All right, awesome. That was Stinky Cash. We got the break coming up here. Again, this first half will be ending on the Jeranism YouTube channel. You can just scroll down to the description and click the link to go to TFR Live and it's TFRlive.com. Click Listen Now. Or you can go over to Ginger Sugarbush 905's channel if you want to continue on YouTube. That link is also in the description. And other than that, we'll see you on the other side. Take calls. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism RAW.
Censorship and regulation is becoming an ever-growing problem in today's modern media. From the mainstream to YouTube and Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives and propaganda. This is why TFR is 100% uncensored, unregulated, and listener-supported. The shows on TFR are not micromanaged by the station, and our hosts are free to speak their minds however they please. As such, the views and opinions expressed on our station are of those who make them. If you happen to hear anything offensive on TFR, please send us an email to toughtitty@tfrlive.com, and we'll be happy to tell you that we really don't give a damn. We stand for freedom of speech and non-censorship. If you also stand for free speech, you can go to tfrlive.com/signup and sign up for a TFR supporter pass and help us in our mission to keep the airwaves uncensored and unregulated. TFR Live, your uncensored and unregulated protection from deception.
Virginia crisis, El Chapo trial. I'm Ann Cates. Virginia's lieutenant governor is fighting back over allegations claiming he sexually assaulted a woman in 2004.
Justin Fairfax is defiant. He says the incident never happened, and it's only now surfacing because he might be elevated as calls continue to grow for Governor Ralph Northam to resign.
It was a year ago this was brought up, and yet folks who investigated it for 3 months dropped the story, did not do it, and they did not do it because it was uncorroborated. It's uncorroborated because it's not true.
Governor Northam, meanwhile, is being urged to step down over photos from his 1984 medical school yearbook page that showed a man in blackface standing next to someone in a KKK hood and robe. Northam apologized, then later recanted and said he was not in that photo. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
The jury resumes deliberations tomorrow in the U.S. trial of Mexican drug kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Correspondent Steve Kastenbaum.
During the 11-week trial, 56 witnesses gave over 200 hours of testimony. The 7 women and 5 men of the jury are now going over it all to see what, if any, of the 10 counts against Joaquin Guzman did the U.S. attorney prove. They heard from members of the Sinaloa drug cartel describing how El Chapo interrogated kidnapped rivals, had them tortured and executed, and sometimes carried out the killings himself.
A study from the Pentagon finds ISIS is likely to regain territory as a result of President Trump's decision to withdraw troops from Syria. Correspondent Ben Wiedemann.
Groups affiliated or who pledged allegiance to ISIS continue to operate quite brazenly in this one corner of Syria. ISIS as a territorial thing is about to be eliminated, but ISIS as an idea, as a threat, is very much present and very much a danger still.
On Wall Street, the Dow gained 175 points, the S&P up 18. I'm Ann Cates.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
On the weekday, don't be surprised, don't be surprised. Walk like us. They even talk like us. Walk like us. But they are not like us. On the weekday, you can see the signs, you can see the signs. They wear the disguise. Look into the mind's eye. There's nowhere to hide. Don't stick all the lies. Whispers from afar.
All right, welcome back. You are listening to Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Appreciate you all joining us, and a thank you to those of you who were in the chat, and also a thank you to everyone who sent in a super chat. We got another one from Carly Sunshine who said #same team. Nope, I totally agree, Carly. And thank you for all your work. I know I enjoy it, David, as well. Isn't that true, Dave?
Absolutely. I do like her stuff. I don't know how some people it's you know what? It's different. Everyone is different. You know, Nathan's stuff is technical and he uses the words differently. You know, yours is yours and mine are short and Stinky Cash's are his. Everyone is different.
Yeah, no, I agree. David and I always joke around about how short his videos are, and I can't possibly do a video that short. I've even tried. Even the other day, I tried to do one on this 11-year-old drag kid, and that video was 8 minutes and something seconds, and that's about the best I could do as far as shortening it up. But you're right. It's just something for everybody. Some people don't have time to sit through me talking for 2 hours or 3 hours. Some people enjoy that. So yeah, you just want to put out videos, and if people like them, they're going to watch, and you'll be able to see your subscriber count and view count go up. And so yeah. And as far as Nathan's show, yeah, I totally agree. I think I've told people before, I take a walk in the mornings, just a little over 2 hours, and it's just something quick and easy. And it's a video I don't have to put my eyes on, so it's easy just to put your headphones in, and I'm just walking and listening. Because a lot of videos you have to watch, and that really wouldn't work as I'm walking in the morning. By the way, Dave, I don't know if I told you, and I don't know if it's the distilled water. I don't know if it's just eating well or whatever, but since the end of July, I'm down 25 pounds. Can you imagine that?
It's the distilled water. The distilled water pulls the impurities out of your body, all of the stuff that your body says, oh my God, this is not something I need in my body, and it surrounds it in fat and stores it somewhere. So when you drink distilled water, it pulls those impurities out of your body.
Yeah, well, the IOU, and then that, and it could be the slanted bed thing, which all started around the exact same time. And I know some people said that helped them lose weight. It also stopped me from snoring. So I am going to do a video on my distiller just to show people the setup I have, which I now brush my teeth with distilled water and use my own toothpaste. And because I think fluoride is so terrible, and I've got tons of evidence of that and stuff that I've read in the past. So I just want to do a video showing people why putting fluoride in your mouth is just incredibly, at this point, stupid, really. And of course, it's in your water. It's in your, your public water. And so if you're using that to brush your teeth, or and I've talked about that before, your mouth is the most sensitive place on your body, really, for you to put anything. And so if you're in there brushing your teeth and brushing that fluoride into your gums, and I think that stuff's terrible. So it could be the distilled water, but I just want to show people my setup and what I do, and how we make sure that we no longer drink any water that we get, and no longer brush my teeth with that water. When I get in the shower, I keep my mouth closed. I can remember, a year ago, I would take the little head of the shower and run it in my mouth, and I don't do anything like that anymore. So not sure the reason, but down 25 pounds. So that's good. I feel much better. I feel great. So appreciate Dave for helping me with the distilled water, seeing that. And Sophia Smallstorm, she's also awesome, and you can find her at flatearthminerals.com. And I've been also using the Restore. So there's a lot of stuff I'm doing, so I can't really pinpoint which part of it is actually showing results. It's all together.
It makes a good health soup. It's not just one thing, but it's all of these things together. You want to hear my latest health theory, which I'm pretty sure works?
You're pretty sure it works? All right.
I'm pretty sure it works. Okay,
right.
So let me ask you a question. If you, let's say you have a job where you're standing there and you're doing something, let's say even just working on a computer all the time, and you don't really move your arms very much. You have a very limited range of motion of your arms, and you don't do any other exercise. Your arms are going to get stiff, and they're going to get kind of the range of motion is going to be limited because you're just doing that limited motion, right?
Okay, gotcha.
So let's say every day when you go home, Missa massages just your left arm, really works those muscles, massages them, squeezes, rubs, and loosens them up. Your left arm is going to have much better range of motion and then be in better shape than your right arm. Would you agree?
I'd agree.
Okay. So as we get older, our eyes have a muscle in them which control the focusing of our lens, and as we get older, that muscle tightens and gets stiff, and that's why we need reading glasses and glasses, because our lens doesn't focus anymore because the range of motion of that muscle is limited. I am a big eye rubber. I dig my palms into my eyes and I rub them. Now, rubbing your eyes is dangerous. If you have contact lenses in or any dirt on your hands or in your eyes, you're going to scratch your eyes and it's really bad. But if you have a clean face and clean hands and rub your eyes, really rub them, pushing your palms into your eyes, I believe that it is massaging that muscle and keeping it limber, because I have excellent eyesight. It's only recently that it stopped, that it started getting worse, probably because I'm doing so much research on the internet and I'm keeping my eyes focused at one length. But I also stopped rubbing my eyes as much as I used to. And I've recently restarted consciously rubbing my eyes a couple times a day. My eyesight's better.
Interesting. All right, maybe I'll have to add.
And the doctors, here's the other way you know that it's probably true. Doctors say, don't rub your eyes.
Right. I've always talked about that.
Don't crack your knuckles. It'll give you arthritis. The opposite is true.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Don't look at the eclipse. You'll go blind.
No,
the opposite is true.
The opposite is true. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Just like fluoride in every single toothpaste that you can find at the store.
It's good for your teeth. It's good for your bones.
Yeah. So I'll do a video on that just to show people my research as far as fluoride goes, and then show them how I make my own toothpaste and how I make sure that I don't brush my teeth with fluoridated water. But yeah, before we were talking about Nathan's show, and I was saying that it's great to listen to. But I'm doing a video that was supposed to be done before this video. Didn't get finished. It's going to come out tomorrow. But in it, I don't know if you watched the episode 701, I think, from Nathan Oakley's Flat Earth Debates, where Wiggles is there, and they can't seem to grasp this idea of a gas pressure on a globe next to the vacuum of space. And man, it's so funny. I actually play about 5 minutes of the thing in my video because this character Wiggles that's on there, he just is arguing over and over, and he just cannot see it.
I heard it. It drove me insane.
Yeah, and he keeps pushing it off. The funny part, he keeps saying to Nathan, he keeps saying, I think you're confused about your belief. It's like Nathan
just wanted him to concede that he said something, which he said.
Yeah, it's so bad, but they just don't get it. And I drew a little diagram that I had to send to somebody who talks to me on Skype and was trying to tell me that gravity holds the gas pressure to the Earth, which is ridiculous. And you'll have to see my video because I don't think I'll be able to give you a good visual without you watching the video. But if you picture a container, okay, so we have a container and you put a divider right in between it. And I'm talking about on the Earth. We can even say it's a globe Earth. You're doing this test on a globe Earth with gravity, everything there. And you've got this chamber, and in it, one side is gas pressure, so that's air, and the other side is a vacuum. Well, if you pulled down the divider that's separating these two things, the gas pressure on one side, the vacuum on the other, if you pulled down the divider just an inch, I guess according to globe Earth believers, that the gas pressure would only go over in that little slot that you pulled down and not the rest, because it doesn't make sense that they believe that right there would prove it. Now, I don't have a gravity. I don't have a vacuum chamber, but I'm sure that people that do could do this test, which is simply fill one side with a gas. You'd have to color the gas so we can actually see it moving. Keep the gas in one side, use your vacuum pump to create a vacuum on the other side. And then when you pull down that divider just an inch so that there's an inch of space there, we know what will happen. And it will be all the gas from the one side will go over and fill all the available space. And that completely debunks the globe position. The globe position is that gravity is keeping the gas pressure. If that's true, that means when we pull that divider down just a little bit, that all the gas pressure on the left side of the chamber would stay there because gravity's holding it. How would it get to the other side of the chamber? Well, we know how, because the second law of thermodynamics tells us it has to take place, which is that all that gas will go to all the available space in the vacuum. So it's just the video, I think, does a good job of showing people that it's actually impossible that you can have a globe with a gas pressure near a vacuum.
Right. And I always say that when they say gravity, I always say, well, then that makes drinking through a straw impossible, because the weak vacuum of your lungs is able to lift water up and away from gravity. Let alone sucking air up and away from gravity with a far weaker vacuum than space.
Yeah, and it's just so funny. It's such a good show when you get those moments like there was. I think it's video 701. Check that one out. There'll be a link in my video tomorrow, just so you can hear the whole thing, because man, it's such a great show. And this is the exact reason why they do the housekeeping at the beginning of the show, is because these are a series of questions that can't be answered. And I say they can't be answered simply because they have not been answered yet. And some of them are just continuing to prove that we've been taught pseudoscience, but it's masquerading as science. This is another case where what is the pseudoscientific belief? That we live on a globe with gas pressure next to a vacuum, or that there must be a container to have gas pressure? What the pseudoscientific belief is the one that doesn't match any tests or experiments or observations, and that's the one that tells us, oh, well, the gas just sticks to the Earth due to gravity, when there's actual tests like the one I just described that would prove to you that it's not, that gravity can't hold the gas to the Earth. Not when it's near a vacuum. That the second law of thermodynamics says that heat will flow to cold, and that high pressure will feed to low pressure. It's just the way it goes. It's a natural law. And this guy kept saying, well, Nathan, I don't think you understand your belief. And Nathan just had to keep screaming at him and saying, it's not a belief. The second law of thermodynamics is not a belief. I still think people are confused at what a law means. It's a second law of thermodynamics because it's never been shown not to be true. So that means it's a law, because there's a Nobel Prize awaiting whatever globe earther decides to explain to me how we have gas pressure next to a vacuum, because if they explain it, then they've just proven that the second law of thermodynamics is false, in which case they're going to get a Nobel Prize for it.
How about just a really long pipe, vertical pipe, and at the top of that you just try to suck some air up through it, or pull the air up, have a vacuum up there and open it up, and it'll just pull the air up and away. Because your side one, they could say, well, it's pulling it sideways. It's not pulling it perpendicular to gravity.
Wait, why? What's pulling what sideways?
You said you had a chamber divided, and then you crack the top open. The air would cross over. That's sideways.
Right, but it shouldn't even do that. If the gravity's pulling it to the ground, why is it going sideways at all? Well, it's going sideways because the place on the side is a vacuum, so it's going to remove all the gas.
I got you. Might as well, but I'm saying you could do the same thing with the vacuum on top of the pressurized side.
Yep, and I show a diagram just like that. And then the funniest thing is in all these diagrams I'm drawing, of course, I'm drawing containers because otherwise it's impossible. So then I show it without a container and say, now look what would happen. There's no freaking container there. If there's no container, then how is the gravity holding the gas pressure?
Gravity, dude.
It'll just all dissipate into space and immediately. And we're not talking about, when I talk about my gravity or my vacuum chamber here, we're talking about a very limited space. When you remove the walls of these containers, all of a sudden the vacuum is infinite as they teach. So what this all amounts to is the fact that space is fake. And so this guy Wiggles was going on and on about these pictures from Himawari and that he did these tests or he did these observations where he said, oh, well, these pictures from Earth match these pictures from the Himawari.
How can anybody still claim Himawari was real after the Paul and the Plains breakdown with those files on it?
It's so classic because then somebody shows him that video, says, here, I put a link to that video where you can see that these are just layers, and he clicks on it and says, oh no, that video is from a flat earther and I know not to trust any flat earthers. So the same time, yeah, it's just amazing. It's like, oh, so let's trust the guys that we're telling you are lying to us. Let's trust the Himawari and all these guys, but don't trust any flat earthers. At that point, you're just going to be a globe earther for the rest of your life, because you're not going to have any globe earthers coming out and telling you the problems with the globe Earth.
He's a Mr. Smith. He's an Agent Smith. That's it. They're everywhere. You can't wake them up.
Yeah, I just was looking at the chat from the. I don't know. Somebody says, at Gingerbush 905, Jeranism, at San Antonio Subrats, Flat Earth Iconoclast. Why are you not listening? I don't know why I read things like that, but that's not really, it doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, yeah, check out my video tomorrow. I think it's going to be a pretty good one. It's called A Globe Earth with Gas Pressure next to a Vacuum, question mark, which is just simply impossible. And so then it comes down to, if we've already proven that the medium, which is space that we're taught, this vacuum of space, if we've proven that that medium is fake, then any picture somebody saying, oh, well, this picture came from the Himawari. Where? From a fake place? No. How could there be pictures from space if we've just proven that space is fake? And he goes on, well, wouldn't these professors have realized, wouldn't these educators have realized that there's a problem if they're teaching about entropy and Nathan's like, yes, I've got a video showing you that the guys know exactly what's going on. Now, they may not come out and say, oh, this also disproves space, but it's because they've been taught so heavily that space exists. So, yeah, at the end of that video, I talk about a term called hor vacui, I believe is how you say it, which is commonly stated as nature abhors a vacuum. And it was postulated by Aristotle, who articulated a belief which was criticized by a lot of people at the time, that nature contains no vacuums because the denser surrounding material continuum would immediately fill the rarity of an incipient void. So the term is, like I said, what is called hor vacui, which means nature abhors a vacuum. He also argued against the void in a more abstract sense, that by definition, a void itself is nothing, and following what Plato said, nothing cannot rightly be said to exist. And anyone who wants to argue with me about that is ridiculous. Nothing cannot exist. There's not nothing in space, yet we've been taught that there's this vacuum of space where nothing exists, and light flies at light speed, and the Earth can just continue to spin in this nothingness and never be slowed down. It's just such ridiculousness, and it cannot exist. And even that's what Aristotle said. That's what Plato said. They said it would be featureless. It could neither be encountered by the senses, nor could its supposition lend additional explanatory power. So, I talk about all that stuff and then again point out what pseudoscience is. And pseudoscience is exactly these things. And I'm just starting to add things to this list of pseudoscience. I did a video last week about Einstein and the belief that the Earth moves and spins and flies through space. And that is clearly a pseudoscience belief. It's got no evidence, no testing, no experiment, much like the gravity holding the atmosphere of the Earth. They can't show it in an experiment. I'll show in my video. I set up an experiment. Anybody who has a vacuum chamber could do this experiment and prove easily that gravity cannot hold the gas pressure that we have on Earth next to a vacuum. It's just ridiculous. It's a religious belief in the vacuum of space, and it has been proven to be fake. So people can believe in planets and all that they want, and that these things are floating up in outer space. But space has been disproven in my mind. And again, this is where it's going to take somebody else proving to me that space exists. And boy, have they done a terrible job at that, especially the ones that get taxpayer money like NASA. What a terrible job they've done at convincing me that this outer space fantasy land exists when all we get is 480p, terrible footage. And we can go back to the Crow's law of high definition. Why is it that we'll never see anything in space in high definition? Obviously, they're still using cameras from 1972, I guess. I don't know. So, did you have anything to say about that before we move on to phone calls?
No, the strongest camera they've ever put up there is 4K, I believe. I mean, 4 megapixels.
Yeah, I don't know if I was going to say 4K.
Not 4K.
We did a video one time. I think it was Morgile, myself, and Bob did a video because they said, the first ever 4K video from space. And we thought they were going to show the Earth and stuff. And no, it just ended up being the two dopes, the girl and the guy. I forgot their names. But, there's two astronauts that were sitting there. And at the start of the show, they had an 11-second delay, which is just hilarious. I find it extremely funny that there's this 11-second delay. Hey, Dave, I heard somebody say something the other day, and I want to see if you agree. Somebody said, it's funny that supposedly they've landed on the back of the moon. And they were saying, well, we're talking about China here. Wouldn't China just send a bunch of people and not really care? Like if you can get a craft to the backside of the moon, why wouldn't they send people? It's like, it's just, I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, yeah, that's so ridiculous that everything that we're told about space travel, and we have to remember that it's easy. Once you get out to outer space, you don't even need to, fire your engines. You're going that speed. You're in an orbit. They obviously did it in 1969, 1970, 71, 72. They landed this craft on the moon. If that was possible, then when Trump offers them an unlimited budget to get to Mars, that should be a simple, easy. Okay, great. We have all the money we need. Because everything I've always heard is always a money problem. That's what everybody tells me when I say, why haven't we been back to the moon? Oh, it's so expensive. Why haven't we put man on Mars? Oh, it's so expensive. So now Trump says to NASA, hey, I'll give you an unlimited budget. Can you get to Mars? And NASA says, no. It's so funny with an unlimited budget. So what's their excuse now? What would they've landed craft after remote control car, after rotating satellite, everything. They've added all this stuff to Mars. And then
Jeran, was that a real thing or was that scripted?
So this is what my question is always when I hear is something scripted or is something fake news or whatever. What would possibly be the benefit to NASA to come out and say that even if you give us a unlimited budget, we can't get people to Mars?
To rub it in our faces because all the sleeping people won't hear it? I don't know. I'm not saying that it is or it isn't. I just question these things.
Yeah, I've always said I think maybe Trump has some questions about going to the moon and some questions about going to Mars, and maybe he put the fire to him by saying, hey, if I give you this unlimited budget, can you do it? And he got the answer. Well, the answer is no.
But why wouldn't they say absolutely yes, it'll take us 10 years?
Because he did say, can they do it by the end of his term? So I don't know if he meant first term or second term. But again, these are questions we can ask. And I think his daughter runs the whole idea of space, which comes from her husband, who comes from, Israel. And I think space is something that's a deception that's been going on for a long time, and they cannot lose it. So, there's no way the president can be involved in every aspect. So they have to have people that they trust. Excuse me. They have to have people that they trust in charge of certain aspects or certain factions or whatever. And one of the things that he's kind of given to his daughter and her husband is the whole idea of space. That's why when he did the interview with the astronauts, she was sitting right next to him. That's what I think is that I just don't know if he has the right person in his cabinet to say, hey, space is fake. Too many people believe it. So, and he probably believes it too, but I don't know. When you start asking questions like that, which is something that, I would do if I was president. I'd say, okay, NASA, you have, I'm going to give you an unlimited budget. Can you put another man on the moon? Can you send a person to Mars? Put the fire to them. And if they say no, that tells me a lot. So let's go to the phones up. So we only have a few minutes left. And this is the caller I kept trying to go to at the beginning, so maybe they're not going to talk. Caller from the 216 area code. You there?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Hey, what's going on?
Much respect.
Thanks.
This is Jeff from Cleveland.
What's up, Jeff?
Hey, great show, as usual. Much respect for you guys. Hey, I could ask you guys 100 questions and all that, but there's something. Last Tuesday, I saw this video about the path of some of the planets. I didn't watch all of it to see if it was every planet or what. But you know how they say it travels, in a circle, right? Well, within that circle, they're saying some of these planets are doing loop-de-loops. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, and I'll answer off the line. Thanks for the call. We only have a few minutes till the last break. Yeah, and it's actually one of the things that I've wanted to work on a little bit, because the whole understanding that we've been given about planets is completely wrong, right? I mean, one of the things is, it takes this many years for Jupiter to orbit Earth, or it takes, not orbit Earth, orbit the sun, or it takes Mars this long, or it takes Saturn this long. When in reality, those things are going around us once a day. But from our perspective, since, as you know, if you heard Stinky Cash at the beginning, when you see like the sun progressing backwards in the sky, meaning we know it's going in a clockwise formation around us, but if you spot it every day, it's actually going to be moving counterclockwise. And the same is true for the planets, that they appear to retrograde. And that's just because your position on the Earth. As they go around once a day and you're looking at them, sometimes they appear to do little circles in and of themselves, which are called epicycles, I believe. And that's the best description. But I'm trying to come up with a way so that people really understand how the planets move, because they don't take a year to go around the sun, obviously. They're taking a certain amount of time to go around the Earth, which is obviously much less than a year. They go around once a day. But then you have to figure out exactly how much they do. And I think the sky is a clock. And I think that we've been hidden the truth about these planets because nobody looks at them from a flat Earth perspective. So it's something that I'll want to do, which is very difficult to do because we've all been taught this idea that they're going around the sun and that it takes Jupiter, whatever it is, 7 years, or Saturn 7 years, whatever, one of those. And really they're going around once a day, but each one progresses a little slower backwards. And so maybe there's some interesting tidbits or facts about the time that it takes them to go around that we've just been completely hidden from, and maybe we can bring those out. Does that make sense, Dave? Sorry, got a break coming up. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Jeranism RAW. We'll be right back, and we'll let Dave comment on my nonsense.
It's amazing how people have been raving about Aya Life all over Facebook. They've been posting their testimonials just because they want to get the word out because it's worked so well for them. If you're not familiar with Aya Life, it's a 99% pure CBD oil, but the secret is the synergy between the hemp and the ayahuasca vine, the non-psychoactive component of the ayahuasca tea. We recently received an email from a wife whose husband has Parkinson's. For the first time, he's been able to sleep through the entire night. Another customer reported that they're no longer using NSAIDs because their tennis elbow has been relieved with Aya Life. The reports have been phenomenal and much more than we ever expected. Everyone should have access to this. That's why if you head on over to ayalife.com right now and use coupon code TFR, we'll give you $5 towards your order. And we'll even ship it worldwide. That's ayalife.com, AYA-life.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim Angioprim is the result, a safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Dowsing is the ancient science of finding water and metal underground. Albert Einstein said that dowsing was tapping into earth energies which modern science as yet does not understand. Diamonds, silver, gold, and platinum objects have all been found using dowsing. And now, for the first time on film, we visit the pyramids, Stonehenge, and ancient sites, dowsing for buried treasure and tapping into this mysterious earth energy.
The Enigma Channel. Intelligent television for planet Earth. EnigmaTV.com.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. The Truth Frequency Radio.
And welcome back. You are listening to the number one show on Truth Frequency Radio in this time slot. That show is Jeranism Monday Night Raw. We have taken all of our breaks, and so we've got another half hour left to go. David, did you understand what I was saying at all before the break, or was I confusing?
You were a little confusing, and I had a little distraction here. So what's the question again?
Well, I think before I talk too much on it, I need to watch a few videos by Steve Torrance. I know he's mapped out the path of the planets on the flat Earth, and so before I comment on it too much, I'm going to look at that. Maybe we can talk about it next week. But there is it's a very difficult conception to understand exactly what the planets are doing. You know, you're talking about putting your zodiac on the clock, and we know that the entire zodiac itself moves around once every 23 hours and 56 minutes. But when it gets to the wandering stars, it becomes a little bit more confusing. That was basically the question, is somebody asking about the path and why they take little circles within circles.
Yeah, isn't that the Ptolemy model? Is it Ptolemy?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. When you think of a planet as a giant, ball, rock floating through space, it can only make circles. When you take that away and make it a wandering star, it can do anything it wants.
Right. Yeah. And Ptolemy believed in the conception of a Earth that is a plane, an extended plane with the stars moving above us. So yeah, maybe I'll start there and kind of get an idea of how he saw it and then help explain it. But I haven't seen anybody, at least from a flat Earth perspective, explain the planets, at least well to my conception, other than Steve Torrance, who does it by modeling it on a 3D program. But yeah, we'll look into that. So good question from that caller. Let's go to the next caller. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw from the 843 area code.
Hey, what's up, Jeran? I was the one that got in there in the beginning too.
Oh, got you. Well, this is a great person. So did I explain that well enough? Why it's difficult to understand the?
Well, I think it's more difficult than any of us could explain. But if I could put it one way, you know how you were talking earlier about adding the zodiac. The zodiac would be the 12 houses that the stars that we're talking about, these sun, moon, and stars, the wandering stars, they move through that, at least appear to. So as that's as that's happening, we can imagine on our clock, the houses, the 12 positions of the clock, they don't move. But in the clock in the sky, they do. Does that make sense? And that's what you're saying when you say 23 hours and 56 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The clock face itself is turning. And the clock face is not the zodiac wheel. The zodiac wheel is within the stellar wheel, which is all of the 88 fixed constellations. So those 88 fixed constellations constantly are moving at the rate of 23 hours and 56 minutes for 360 degrees. So that's one motion. And then another motion, we have the sun, moon, and stars movement within that. And that actually has been tracked forever, and it's called astrology, which is the infinite study of the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
And this is made into this whole mythical thing, but in reality, it's just looking at the degrees of the sky and the movement of these heavenly bodies within that. So within that, we actually can see that the sun, like you talked about earlier, it gets to the Tropic of Cancer, which is simply the line where Gemini and Cancer meet in the zodiac wheel. They make a circle around the sky once a day, as you said, and that circle is closest to the North Pole. So that's the circle that the sun gets to on June 21st, or within 3 days, give or take 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets to the opposite side in the winter. And what I'm saying about them moving backward and not forward is that, how when it's on the outside, it must be moving much faster, people would say. This is what the Globers would say. They say, well, when it's on the Tropic of Capricorn, that sun's got to be moving way faster to get around the 360 degrees because it's so much further away.
Right.
But if you're looking at that the sun is only moving around that circle once a year, the sun keeps its same rate every day. It's just the sky is actually what's moving, and the sun is within that sky. You see, so we just have it all wrong. We don't realize that the sky is moving.
Do you have a Skype or no?
I do. I do have a Skype.
Yeah. Hey, do me a favor. Look me up.
I tried to reach out to you, but I'm kind of an asshole, so I probably came off the wrong way. But
that's all right. I'm used to it. But yeah, if you find me Jeranism Truth on there and just tell me that we talked, because you seem to have a good grasp on it, and I would like to talk to you off air about it just so I can have a better understanding.
I just was lucky. Yeah, I was lucky to have studied astrology. I came out of Christianity myself. I got sick of seminary, so I went overseas and just kind of traveled around, got to know the world a little bit, and then I came back and got married, and then I was like, I got to teach these kids in this place, and I just started to teach myself everything again, and Flat Earth became a part of that about 4 years ago, so it really fit into my astrology, and I'd love to talk to you, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You would be a huge help, so yeah, check me out on Skype, Jeranism Truth, and then just tell me that we talked tonight, and I will accept you, and we'll talk more about it, because I'd like to hear that again and really understand what you're saying about the sky moving, the face of the clock, all that. Let's go to the next caller from the 334 area code. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hey, Jeran. It's Carlos. How's it going?
Carlos, what's going on?
Not much, man. I just wanted to tell you that, which I did send you a message also, but I saw the documentary Beyond the Curve. Very interesting.
Boo.
And even though I disagree with a lot of your opinions, I will have to agree with you that they did misrepresent your experiment, and there was some deceptive editing there.
Yeah, well, it's a movie,
so,
and I've said that before. And so,
yeah,
what do you expect? It's a movie, so I didn't expect it to be right on, but I didn't expect them to do what they did, and I wish I would have recorded it, which would have allowed me to at least show people, hey, look, they took something out of the middle that wasn't even a result. And like I've said, globe earthers were there. Nobody walked away from that saying, oh, you proved the globe earth tonight. The only people that walked away with that idea would have been in the heads of these movie makers who said, let's use this to make it look like he proved that the earth was curved. So what do you expect?
Yeah.
Any other words?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say also, you guys were talking about the Himawari satellite.
Correct.
And I did see Paul on the plane breaking it down, and it would seem if what he showed is legitimate on the website, that they are overlaying some data over the blue marble and doing some shading to make it look like the sun is in a certain place or whatever. Of course, I would disagree to say that the data is not coming from a satellite because I believe it is. They're just overlaying it over the blue marble painting or whatever. But yeah, I would, a lot of people, even globe heads, will look at that and immediately say, "Oh, here's the picture." I'm like, well, it's not necessarily a picture. It would be a composite of multiple amounts of data. But he is right on saying that it's not an actual photograph because, like I said, what he showed was that they were in fact overlaying information layers of clouds and light over the blue marble photograph. So very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. I appreciate that call. And do me a favor, Carlos, tomorrow, watch the video that I put out. And then I want you to either call next week or write me on Skype and let me know how it is that you believe, because you just said you think that the images are coming from Himawari. So watch the video that I do and then tell me how you still think that those pictures are coming from a place that can't exist. And if you think that space can exist after that video tomorrow, then I would love for you to show me how there is gas pressure on the Earth next to a vacuum. Explain to me how it works, and you can use gravity if you want, because even when you use it, you'll see in my video that it can be easily debunked that gravity cannot hold the gas pressure on Earth next to a vacuum. And so I would love to hear, I've been asking a lot of Globers lately, first of all, to tell me to my face that the belief that the Earth does not spin is pseudoscience, and I haven't heard anybody say it yet. And it's because if you watch some of this stuff and it gets laid out correctly, I think that's where maybe a couple people will click with them. And in this case, I hope tomorrow's video clicks with you that the medium of space cannot possibly exist unless you are going to explain to me how we can break the second law of thermodynamics, in which case, like I said, Carlos, you will have a Nobel Prize for figuring out that the second law is not correct and that high pressure does not always go to low pressure. Let's go to the next caller. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. This is a 360. What's up?
Yes, I'm here.
What's up?
This is Dan from Valley Music Journey.
What's up, Dan?
I'm walking with snow, but I'm back to the house now. I'm trying to feed the cat. Actually, it's a feral cat, so just trying to help out a cat in need. So, but anyway, long time listener, first time caller.
Appreciate that. What can we do for you?
Well, I thought that since it's still snowing outside, and by the way, your Himawari stuff was right on. But since in honor of the winter time, before we get too far out of it, I just want to hear you and my other favorite flat earther and truther DITRH go after the Ultima Thule sighting by NASA one more time before this winter's over. It's 19 degrees here, so it's a theme I'm on still.
And you want us to what? I'm sorry, maybe I missed the question.
What is the ultimate Thule?
I want you to bag on the snowman, Ultima Thule, that they say they sighted about a month ago, right after Christmas, 4 billion miles away, and that they got photos of.
Oh, the asteroid that looks like a snowman.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's real.
Break that down, East Coast flat earther.
Well, I think Dave just said it perfect. He said that's real. That's what
that's real.
That's actually real. So is the cigar asteroid.
And so is the one that looks like a skeleton that comes around on Halloween.
Right. And so is the fact that near Halloween, the sun and the sunspots usually show like a jack-o'-lantern. That happens too. Yep.
Yes, that's real.
My favorite are the videos of us landing on asteroids and then taking off from the asteroid and leaving and going to like other planetoids out there or mini planets like Vespa or whatever those places are called. Ceres, I think, is one of them. Yeah, these are all true stories by NASA. Thank you very much, NASA. And let's go to the next caller in the 904 area code. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this?
This is Brian.
What's up, Brian?
Hey, I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I just started a little web page because I'm trying to do some experiments. But I wanted to run an idea by you. I come up with a lot of ideas. Some of them are a wash, but how about this? Has anybody thought of this? Like, say we take a Faraday cage, right? And maybe like dig a hole, and I don't know if this would work with a cell phone, but like maybe get a handheld GPS or something that doesn't link with cell phone towers, and like kind of narrow the angle. You see where I'm going with this? Like you kind of dig a hole, right? And then on the top, like just say like a hole like 6 foot circumference, okay, and about 6 foot deep. Okay. Then we take a Faraday cage to block the cell phone signals, right? And we put it around the top of the hole, even around the bottom, to block us from any cell phone towers, and see if we can get GPS from above, like from the satellites. You know what I'm saying? Kind of constrict the range. What do you think about that one?
I don't know about Dave. Dave, thank you for the call. Appreciate that. My only thought would be that, sometimes I believe that they launch so many balloons. NASA reportedly launches 50 balloons a day. And if that's what they're telling us, then, it wouldn't be a stretch to say, okay, they're launching 200 balloons a day. And if those balloons are up there, and I know that some balloons can stay up there for months at a time, and even the NASA very expensive ones can stay up for a year. But if they can stay up for months at a time, then I wouldn't doubt that there's some stuff above us. How high, I don't know. If 120 miles, or I'm sorry, 120,000 feet. I'm sorry, I didn't know I said miles. If that's the height that balloons get, and I'm sure that they can construct a balloon that could actually get a little bit higher than that and then maintain that altitude. And, it wouldn't take very many of those up in the sky to kind of, I don't believe, obviously, in satellites 22,000 miles away and that kind of nonsense that's giving us GPS, but I wouldn't doubt that we could get something from a balloon. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, they can set up a network, a relay network, just like cell towers do, where you can have what they call satellite communications. I have a friend that's going on a ocean scuba trip, and he's going to be on a boat for a couple of weeks, and they're charging, if they want to have some internet connection, it's like $300 for 1 gigabyte. So I'm guessing that they're using, maybe balloons or some other, bouncing off the dome of somehow, but they're not using satellites.
No. And one of the things that, and maybe we'll do a video on, I don't know when, but Dave and I have gotten together and we've asked a few people. We asked Jason and Crow and a few other people to help us come up with a list of questions that we thought would be good to ask teachers. And we're going to come out with a video where we just ask people to either, copy those out or print those out and send them to a few local schools or hand them to your children to take to science teachers. But we have a lot of questions for science teachers. So I think that's something coming up that's going to be quite interesting. And then Dave,
we have enough questions. We have too many.
Yeah, we got.
So we're just trying to make an easy list. A big type on a sheet and it's not going to mention flat Earth.
Right.
Where a kid can bring it to the teacher and say, hey, I was studying and we're looking for some extra credit, and we found this list and I can't answer any of these. Can you help me?
Right. Yeah. One of the examples of a question would be like, if relativity is true, which everybody believes that relativity is true, then why are we taught that the Earth goes around the sun? That's just a simple question that I think people fail to realize, that Einstein taught everybody that relativity is true, meaning that all motion is relative, that there is no real motion. You can never tell which body's moving. If you're standing on the Earth, the sun looks like it's going around you. If you're standing on the sun, it would look like the Earth's going around you. So he says everything is relative. But if that's true, why are we teaching children that it's a fact that the Earth goes around the sun? It's completely and totally doesn't match with relativity. So those are the kind of questions we're talking about, just simple ones to kind of get both the student and the parents and the teachers thinking. So I think it's a great idea. Dave, the other idea we had, and I'll get to the calls in 1 second, should we talk at all about the idea of why we see no rays of the sun coming up into buildings and hitting the ceiling?
Yeah, well, that's a great one. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good topic, and it's something I read in the early 1900s book, and I can't recall right now which book exactly it was in, but somebody saying that the sun is never below our feet. which is something Dave believes and something I believe, and most flat earthers believe, I'm sure, that the sun is always above your head. And they say if the sun really was below your feet at sunrise or sunset when it's passing by the horizon, if you will, they said then we should see rays come up. And people might know what I'm talking about as far as the rays of the sun. When you maybe have the sun outside your house and you see those rays coming in through the window, sometimes they're very obvious. You'll see actual nice rays coming in. Well, those rays always go down. Now, if you were on top of a tall building, on top of a hill or something near, it doesn't need to be near water. It can be by anything. But when the sun is setting, it should be several miles, or not miles, I don't know what you want to call it. It should be several feet. Maybe if you're in the Burj Khalifa, which is 2,400 feet or something, then the sun is actually 2,400 feet below your feet if you're in the top of that building. So there should be sun rays that actually enter the windows of the Burj Khalifa and hit the ceiling. And what this person said in that book is that there's no, in the history of the world, there's never been a sun ray that has entered any building going upwards and hitting a ceiling, which I would agree with. So it's something we've been thinking about of how do we do that test. If there was a tall building located next to, say, the beach here in Monterey, I would love to go watch the sunset, be at the top floor in that building, and watch a sunset or sunrise and see if rays actually enter the building and hit the ceiling, which has never been seen before in the history of the world because the sun is never below your feet. So that's something we have been looking to do. We've just been kind of shooting ideas back and forth. Dave and I have. Dave thought of the idea of doing it on a plane, which I think is a great idea. The problem is just you would have to be really controlled. You'd have to make sure you have a level. I think Dave described it as using like a shoebox with a stick in it. If you made a mark exactly as tall as that stick and then put that shoebox and everything was exactly level at the window at sunrise or sunset, does the shadow of the stick actually go higher than the mark that you placed on the back of the shoebox? We would contend that it would never do that. Globe Earther would say that it does. So trying to think of a way to do that test, but that's another good test idea. Let's go to the phones. We have somebody at the 678 area code. You're on with Jeranism Monday Night Raw. Who's this? Where are you from?
Hi there. My name is Leah, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
What's up, Leah?
Recently, for the last several weeks, we have been watching the Smithsonian Channel programs entitled Aerial America. Are you either of you familiar with them?
Not at all. No. Where are you watching that? YouTube
Okay,
or
good.
somewhere else?
No, it's on Dish Network.
Okay.
Some of these were filmed in 2014 and 16, but each program they have an airplane and they do aerial views of each state. Now I have been watching and I have noticed, particularly they did one from Alabama and I think Nebraska, when they show aerial views of the distance. In some cases, it's very obvious to me that the Earth is flat. Now, some of the other shots, you can see a slight curve. But I would encourage some of the leaders in the in the flat Earth, and of course you two are major ones, to get to watch some of those programs. They come on at 11 o'clock Eastern time. But I think it's really interesting because they do long distance views of aerial shots.
Mm-hmm.
One in particular is of the ocean. I think it's of the Gulf of Mexico. There's a wide range, and there is absolutely no curve.
Wow. And one more time, you said the name was Aerial what?
Aerial America.
Okay.
That's the name of the program. That's the name of the program. And they rerun them. I mean, they repeat them often.
Yeah, I'll look them up.
I thought it was absolutely.
Yeah, great. I'll look them up and see if I can find any of those to watch. I don't have Dish Network, but usually you can find that stuff elsewhere. So I'll definitely take a look.
It's probably on any satellite station but even the Smithsonian is telling us the Earth is flat, but they don't know it. I think it's hilarious.
Well, thank you so much, Leah. We appreciate that call from Georgia. We got one more phone call. This is from good old Wendell 626. You there, Wendell?
Yes, I am.
What's going on?
Your time is short here, so
I'll get right to the point.
All right.
You know, there's a lot of people that want flat earthers to use the scientific method, etc. And it's really hard to come up with an experiment or observation where you can do that. A couple of days ago, somebody posted a vid on ISS Confirmed, and they used some of your footage where you saw the ISS transit the moon.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how long ago that was, but before that happened, there was a bird that flew in front of the moon as well. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to me, I thought at the time, like, wow, that bird is about the same size as the ISS is. Have you ever done a perspective calculation to see how that would work?
You know, I haven't, just because the bird that I saw was completely random. It just happened to be, a few minutes before the ISS passed the moon, and then the ISS passed where it was supposed to. And, to me, I just looked at it as, well, nobody knew I was doing that observation. It's not like I announced it or anything. So, I see what you're saying, and I have not done. I mean, that's my answer. I have not done I would just assume that the bird is much, 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 much closer than whatever it was flying in the sky, but I don't know. I don't know that answer. So sorry, that probably doesn't.
Well, when I Googled it, like the ISS is 1,328,740 feet above us, supposedly. And it's only 356 feet wide. Now, if it was like a crow, and then that's the biggest bird I would give it, that has a wingspan of 40 inches. So, and it seemed like it was maybe 100 or 200 feet above you, something like that. So I think the ISS is way bigger than what it should have been, perspective-wise, because it's so far away. It should have been just a pinhead. When you measure the wingspan of the bird against the moon and see that it's really close to the ISS size, I think that there may be something there if you put a ruler on it and use the perspective calculation to figure all that out.
All right. Well, I appreciate that call. Sorry to cut you off, but we just have about a minute left. Dave, any final words or thoughts on that before we go?
No, that's it. Don't have really much to say on that.
Yeah, no, me neither. But it's something, Wendell, I would love to look into. David, did you hear that Isaac Szabo is attempting to do my P1000?
Oh, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And he thinks he can do it?
Well, we kind of came to an agreement. I just told him, do you want to open it up and take a look? And I said, I trust that you're not going to break my camera. So I said, if you get to a point where you say, you know what, this is impossible for me to do, then just send it back. And I said, and he was anxious enough to say, you know what, I want to see that camera. I want to see why LifePixel can't do it. So yeah, I sent it to him, and we'll find out here in a couple days.
Very good.
So everybody, thank you for watching the show as always, or listening to the show. We appreciate it so much. If you want to support us, the best way to do that is to get the Flat Earth Sun and Moon Clock app. That will help support David. That's on Google, Android, and iPhone. And you can just go to patreon.com/Jeranism to support this channel, or paypal.me.
See you guys next week.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like Beyond the Veil with Chris and Cherie Geo, X Squared with Brooks Agnew, Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, Jeranism RAW with Jeran and Missa, Fearless with Frank Castle, Strange World with Mark Sargent, The Eye of Ra with Ra Castaldo, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray, Ironworks with Josh Corey, The Kev Baker Show, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117? Or call into your favorite show, toll free at 833-TFR Live. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.